Look, full transparency, I hate that personally. It's American, it's cheesy, it's boring and overused now. We need to think about other things. I've got a statistic for you. Oh my gosh, in the first time in podcast history, I've said statistic correctly for the first time. You heard it here first. Cold calling is making a massive comeback. And in today's episode, we're going to share some simple cold call openers you can start using today. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Sales Circle podcast. Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, you should know by now, the Sales Circle podcast is the podcast designed to help you make more sales, whether you are a salesperson, a sales manager, maybe you're an entrepreneur, business owner, whatever it is. And every week we come together on a Thursday and we talk all things sales. If you are new to the podcast, then welcome. Thank you so much joining us. If you're a returning listener or viewer over on YouTube, then once again, thank you so much for coming back. My name is Rob Spence, an internationally renowned sales trainer, sales author, sales coach, the managing director of a cold calling agency, which we're going to talk about in a second. And I'm thrilled to be with you today. Can we just give a little shout out for this lovely little purpley light that I've got going on here? I know it's only a small thing in the grand scheme of things, but I'm just checking my little side monitor from time to time. And weirdly, it looks really nice. It's a lovely, for those of you listening in, do go check it out on YouTube or over on social media perhaps. But it reminds me a bit of a, I don't know, maybe a sunrise or a sunset. I know that sounds really metaphoric, but it does. I think because of you got the, just to describe it, the lights seem to be pointed at each other quite nicely. So you've got, towards the top, you've got this kind of bluey, kind of purple hue that kind of evolves down into a beautiful kind of pink saturated hue, hue I think is the term, followed by like a nice orange amber glow at the bottom. It looks lovely. Do go check it out on YouTube. But we're not here to talk about lighting. We're not here to talk about colours. Thank goodness. We're here to talk about sales, and in particular cold calling, and in particular cold call openers. Cold calling is making a comeback. I've been saying this for the past 7 years now. It's why I set up my business. Cold calling is making a comeback. And along with that is opening people up, trying to figure out how to open people up, how to figure out how to open up people, when we're cold calling. And in today's episode, we're going to share some simple openers that you can start to use. Now, some of these are ones that we use here at Paragon Sales Solutions. Others, what we've seen in the marketplace. I guess one of the questions is, before we get on to the main part of the episode, why is cold calling making a comeback? And for me, the answer is simple. Now, I know it seems like and sounds like I constantly knock AI and automation. Trust me, I don't. I believe that sales happen when we build genuine relationships and have honest conversations with people. Gone are the days of just emailing 10,000 people and hoping we get a sale, or putting out a social media post and waiting to get rich. People want to be bought and sold to human. And the cold call is one of the best ways to do that. And I believe that two of the reasons is one, it's different, right? One, it's very much different. If everyone else is sending emails and LinkedIn messages, then cold calling certainly, stands you out from the crowd. But secondly, you're building and developing that human connection. So listen, without further ado, let's get on to the main part of the episode. But before we do, just do us a quick favor. Hit that follow button, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not following us on social media, on any of the platforms, just head to one and drop us a follow. And let's crack on. When we are cold calling, when we are making sales calls, there's a multitude of steps and sections of that cold call that we've got to pay really close attention to, okay? We have to make sure that we have that conversation to the best of our abilities, develop relationships, and get the result we want. But I think it's fair to say that actually opening that conversation is probably one of the most crucial and critical steps of the cold call. If you're not starting that call well, you're going to be hung up on. If you're not starting that call well, you're going to have to move on to the next one quickly. And of course, one of the key things that we're taught about in sales is this gatekeeper, this mysterious gatekeeper that holds the keys to success, whose job it is to stop us pesky salespeople from bothering and pestering the decision makers. When we are opening up a cold call, we've got what? You'll know as well as I. 5 seconds, 10 seconds at most to make an impression. You got to remember, when we're picking up that phone, that gatekeeper is kind of got one of two jobs, either to put the right phone call through to the right department or to stop bad salespeople from getting through, right? We've got 5 to 10 seconds to get through. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to have the phone hung up on us. We're going to miss the opportunity. And we as salespeople are going to feel dejected, rejected. Before we go on to the top call openers, I want to make really, really clear. You will not get through to who you want to get through to. Or, let me reword that, you will not have engaging conversations with anyone if you are a bore, okay? I want to make that really clear. If you listen and look at some of these openers we're going to share momentarily, some of them, follow a same kind of style and a pattern, but the best thing about it is they're different, okay? They are absolutely different every single time. If you are cold calling, whether you're setting out an hour a day to cold call, whether your job is to cold call for 8 hours a day, do you really want to be saying the same thing again and again and again and again? I know I don't. And in particular, if that opener is boring. My biggest tip to take away from any of these cold call trainings that we're going to talk about, or cold call parts of the podcast, mix things up a little bit. Have fun. I know that if I'm sat in front of a phone for 8 hours, I don't want to be saying, "Hello, my name is Rob calling from Paragon. How are you today?" Wonderful. I would like to speak to whoever deals with your cleaning, please. Fucking bore fest. Absolute bore fest. And imagine saying that again and again and again and again and again and again. Have some fun with it. For the love of God Almighty, please have some fun with it. What you've got to remember is that one cold call opener will work on someone, but that same cold call opener won't work on someone else, because we are human. We've got to try. We've got to practice. We've got to see what works. We've got to see what fits. And if you're constantly saying the same thing again and again and again, you're not going to get anywhere fast. In particular, you're not going to get anywhere fast if you're not giving the prospect or the gatekeeper a good reason to actually listen to you. So when we are writing up these cold call openers, there's a couple of things we want to take into respect. Is that the right word? Maybe, I don't know. First of all, we've got to disarm that person, right? The second a phone call comes through, like I say, that gatekeeper has got a split second to decide whether you're a good person or a bad person, okay? Whether you're a customer or a salesperson. And once again, if we go through that monotony of, "Hello, my name is Rob, calling from cleaning company ABC. I'd like to talk to whoever deals with your cleaning." What do you think that gatekeeper is going to do? Barriers come up, right? The shutters come down. "No, not dealing with this. I'm too busy." Right? So we've got to disarm them to some degree. What we also want to really encourage is respect. We've got to respect both the time of the decision maker. Of course, in sales, the decision maker is vitally important. But in my opinion, the gatekeeper is 10 times more important than the decision maker, because 9 times out of 10, that gatekeeper holds the keys to everything. They know everything that goes on. They know a lot more information, and better still, they're privy to a lot of conversations. Even better than that, they're more than likely willing to influence the decision maker. So we've got to show respect every step of the way. Now, with every cold call, with every conversation, with every question, we are never, or we should never, call up and hope to take that conversation to a sale straight away. All we're ever trying to do is just build a bit more information, build a bit more relationship, earn a bit more trust, uncover a bit more, some more pain points. We're just going step by step, breadcrumb to breadcrumb. We're just trying to get a few seconds more on the phone. Now, I've got a statistic for you. Oh my gosh, in the first time in podcast history, I've said statistic correctly for the first time. And would you believe it's like only 7:30 in the morning as well. So Gong.io, great name, analysed over 90,000 cold calls and found that calls with the open with permission-based language have a higher conversion rate to meeting than those that jump straight into a pitch. So out of 90,000, it's a shame we didn't actually get the actual statistics there, to be fair, but high conversion rate. So let's look at a couple of openers, shall we? So I've jotted down 5 cold call openers that I'm willing for you to take and willing for you to steal. I may, if I'm feeling generous, share one that works really well for me. And it's kind of included in these, but there's one that I absolutely love. I might share that at the end. But here's a couple of openers. So opener number 1. Hi, it's Rob Spence. Have I caught you at a bad time? This works really well, especially if we're speaking directly to a decision maker, not necessarily if we're calling a gatekeeper. It may seem counterintuitive because I'm sort of asking a negative, right? But studies show that people are more likely to say no to this, which works in your favor. The reason for this is, if you look at the studies, is that a no keeps them in control and often leads to that all-important question of, what's this about? And all we're doing is reversing. Instead of saying, hi, have you got 3 minutes to spare? We're saying, have I caught you at a bad time? They will normally say the words no. It's polite. It gives the gatekeeper or the decision maker the power. And it feels human. It feels absolutely human. How about this one? Hi, Rob Spence here. I know I've called out of the blue. Mind if I take 30 seconds to tell you why I'm calling? Now, this opener has become very famous, very viral in the past couple of years. You know, that whole, would you hate me if this is a cold call? Can I have 30 seconds? Look, full transparency, I hate that personally. It's American, it's cheesy, it's boring and overused now. We need to think about other things. But we're still asking for permission. Remember what that study said. If we ask for permission, we're more than likely to get a good positive response than just going into that pitch. Everyone can spare 30 seconds. I sometimes be a bit funny with it. I don't say 30 seconds because it's like the 5-minute syndrome, right? Nothing ever takes 5 minutes. So I would say, where's the effect of 27 seconds or 29 seconds or 23 seconds? It's so precise that the prospect normally will laugh and go, oh, go on then, not a second more, right? It's great. One of the reasons why this one works is because, like I say, we're asking for permission. The prospect feels less trapped as well. They'll hear you out. If it's not for them, they'll shoo you on, right? And in doing so, it lowers those defenses. Now, here's a little statistic that I read once. I don't know the exact figures, but actually if you use odd numbers whenever we're pitching, whenever we're talking, for some reason it generates a better response. Please do fact check me on that and write in. So that's why I normally go for 27, 29, or even 31 seconds perhaps. This number 3, I tell you what, I'm going to leave number 3 till the end, okay? Let's go for number 4. Hi, it's Rob Spence. I saw your post on LinkedIn about such and such. Now, one would argue that to some degree this kind of takes into a bit of a realm of social selling. We know through all of the episodes that we've been publishing on the Sales Circle, and if you have missed them, just go back on whatever platform you're digesting this information, go back and watch and listen. What that does is it shows that you are there to actually help and support your prospect. Remember, I believe that people will only buy from us if we are selling a solution that actually really helps and support them. And better still, shows that we have listened, cared, and shown an interest in the person we are selling to. If we call up to sell for the sake of selling sake, we're not going to get very far. By utilizing that, I saw your post on LinkedIn about XYZ, or I saw your recent blog post about A, B, and C. I saw your press release involving XYZ, blah, 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 blah. It shows we've done our homework. It shows that we're actually caring, and actually it gives a nice relevant touch point between ourselves and the prospect. And finally, here's one. Not finally, because I've still got to do this one at the end, haven't I? Hi, I work with companies like yours to solve such and such. Is that something you're open to talk about? Once again, this goes back to my theory about people won't take your phone call or won't put through your phone call if it's boring or if there's no relevance. No one, and please correct me if I'm wrong, has ever woken up today one day and gone, do you know what I want? I want to listen to some sales pitches. I'm super busy, loads going on, but I'd love to listen to some sales pitches. But actually, I know a lot of people who want to solve problems in their business. Whether they know about those problems or not, they want to know about those problems. So that's what that does. And I call that sometimes when I'm training my team here at Paragon is that becomes a bit of a mini pitch in itself. We're sort of, you got to think from a persuasive point of view. Even the terminology of I work with company like yours involves social proof. And we know through a psychology of persuasion that social proof is massive when it comes to decision making. So it shows authority as well to some degree. It shows that we're getting the right results for the right people, that we could then, in theory, help the person we've spoken to. Now, I'm going to share one opener that I love and I recommend. Now, I call it the damsel in distress opener. With the damsel in distress, you can use it if you're a boy or a girl. With the damsel in distress opener, what we are doing is we are going in and seeking help and advice. It's very rare that people don't want to help others. It happens, but normally 9 times out of 10, people want to help other people, right? If we act like a damsel in distress, normally someone will be there willing to help us, okay? So one opener, you could say, hey, I'm not too sure if you're the right person to speak to, but, or you could say, I wonder if you can help me. It's not, the thing is with the damsel in distress, it's not just what we're saying, it's how we're saying it as well. If we're going in too firm, too authoritative, then it null and voids the whole damsel in distress tale. What we want to be doing really is saying, I need help somehow. Some stutters, some stalls, some Hey, I'm not, so listen to the difference between these two. Hey, I'm not too sure if you're the right person to speak to, but that sounds salesy, in my opinion. But if you go, hey, listen, I was just calling you up because I could do with some help. I'm not too sure if you're the right person to be speaking to, but you see on that second one, on that latter example, we're dilly-dallying, we're delaying, we are stalling, we're we're tutting. It takes away that hard sell. And when we do that, it gives the prospect the chance to correct and have that power, and it builds that collaborative approach. Some salespeople, some sales trainers will say, no, we must be authoritative all the time. We are the salesperson, which I agree to some degree, but actually, sometimes we are trying to seek help and advice, right? And that, as a sneaky little extra hint or tip for you, that actually works really well if you call up the sales department of the company you're trying to get hold to. Sometimes, actually, if you're trying to get through to a decision maker, my big recommendation is to call through to the sales team, right? The sales team normally can build a collaborative approach. You say, listen, we're in the same game here. I need to speak to such and such. How do I get to them? Normally, you're going to be helped and supported. And as well, on a phone line with, 10 different numbers and no one's picking up, I'd say 8 times out of 10, the sales team have to pick up that damn telephone. So they're going to be there to help and support you anyway. So don't be afraid to use it. I mean, look, I've given you some 5 very simple and easy cold call openers. There's hundreds, if not thousands. And one day I do have plans just to write a book full of cold call openers. So you can pick it and choose them. To give you some tips on cold calling openers, just remember, right? Not one thing will work for everyone, right? You could call 100 people and say the same thing over and over again, and only a small percentage will agree to it, and vice versa. So mix it up. Trial, test, try new things, try different things. Your job within those first 5 to 10 seconds to build a great impression that gives your prospect a reason to further engage. Just remember, they will give you a reason to further engage. If you aren't engaging, if you're not exciting, if you're not someone that people wants to speak to, then they're going to hang up on you, right? It's like being at a networking event. Hell, it's like being at a party. If you are a bore, no one's going to talk to you. What was it David Ogilvy said? You can't bore anyone into buying from you or something like that, or words to that effect, right? So be exciting, use your voice and everything else in between. And don't forget, smile when you're talking down that telephone. Speak. Well, yeah, absolutely. You want to speak, but you want to stand up when you're calling. Pause. Use pauses and avoid over-apologizing. Here's an interesting stat before we got onto the listeners' questions. A SalesLoft study found that reps who paused 2 to 3 seconds after their name saw 15% more conversations continue past the intro. Silence shows confidence. I think that study, I think that quote, I think that statistic speaks volumes. So listen, take some of those away. And if you've got a great opener that you've been using, call into my team, try it on them, or even better still, write into the podcast. I'd love to hear from it so we can help salespeople improve. Just before we do go on, a cheeky plug for my online sales training courses. Yes, I am the host of this fantastic podcast, but actually, I'm a world-renowned sales trainer. And if there's one thing that I love, it's helping salespeople around the world to improve their sales skills. And yes, although this podcast is designed to help you boost your sales and enhance your sales skills, it's not a training. It's just conversation. It's a one-way monologue. It's a thought provoker. Perhaps you've listened to this podcast and gone, yes, I need more help with my cold calling. Yes, I need more help with my objection handling. Yes, I need to be more persuasive. Then my online sales training courses could be for you. Don't get me wrong, I work in person. I work in the real world. I deliver seminars, keynote speeches. I deliver one-to-one coaching, mentoring. But actually, I also provide online sales training courses that are cost-effective, great investment, and are accessible anytime, anywhere. All you need is a device and a Wi-Fi signal. If you want to get involved with my online sales training courses, then hit the link in the show notes or the video description below. Have a look at the array of courses we have. There's an alarm going off that has scared the hell out of me. Should I be worried about that alarm? No, I shouldn't. It's gone. And do go check those courses out. That was the sales course alarm. Go buy now. Okay, we move on to the sales. No, we don't. We move on to the listeners' questions of the week. As a reminder, every week I ask you to send in your burning sales questions, and we either read them out in an episode or collate a full bumper episode. If you do have a burning sales question, all you got to do is email into thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com or find us on social media, on LinkedIn, wherever you want. Send us in a question and I'll be sure to read them out and answer them, which is exactly what Rachel has done. She says, Rob, what do I do if someone immediately says, I'm not interested? Thank them. And just thank them. We've got to appreciate honesty, but you can, politely ask, hey, listen, totally get it. I'm glad you've got it sorted. Can I ask what you're already using? Can I ask what you've already got in place for this? What is going on? There is something horrendously loud happening outside. It reopens the door without being aggressive. So it's like an objection handling situation, right? We can use the feel, felt, found method. We can use the boomerang method. What we're going to say is thank them and then politely ask, hey, listen, look, I'm glad you've got it sorted, because many people I've been speaking to today haven't. What are you using currently? Or how are you getting on with the current provider? How are you getting on with the current supplier? Remember, what we're trying to do is get bite-sized chunks to carry on that conversation. So thank you for that. Lewis says, is it better to say who you're calling from or what you want straight away? Yes or no? Listen, we are British, unless you're listening to this abroad. We like to introduce ourselves, right? Which I get. But what we've got to remember is that we've got to sell and lead with value. Remember, people buy from us because of what we can do to help them, right? Not necessarily the name on the can. If you're absolutely dying of thirst, you're not going to be picky or choosy over the name on the bottle, are you really? Or where that water is sourced from. You're going to want to buy that bottle of water or bottle of pop or anything else, right? So actually, we should be selling value first. The introduction is vitally important, but I think lead with value. And that stops us going into that sales pitch. I think the second you introduce with your name, barriers with the gatekeeper come up, right? It's very rare as a customer that you call somewhere up and say, hello, my name is Rob Spence, and I'm here to discuss that, right? That's not what a customer does, but that's what a salesperson does. So I think lead with value and go from there. This one comes from Anonymous on this one. I always freeze after the prospect says hello. Any tips? Yeah, a couple of things here. It happens to the best of us. Practice, prepare, and memorize what you're going to say after that moment, right? What we've got to really remember is our first cold call ever is going to be horrendous, right? Our first 100 cold calls, to some degree, are going to be horrendous. In each cold call, we're trying to get better. We're trying to enhance. Remember, I used an analogy recently about walking. The more we walked as a baby, the more we walked as a child, the more we fell over, actually, the better we became. So I think, Anonymous, practice, understand your pitch, understand that opener, and you'll be absolutely fine. Thank you so much for the listeners' questions. I've just noticed the time. We're quickly running out of time. So let's move on to our book recommendation of the week. Every week, we pick out a sales book that is designed to help you increase your sales. And this week, obviously, with cold calling in line, I've picked out Cold Calling Techniques by, who's this actually by? Stefan Schiffman. I apologize if I've said that wrong. Now, he is apparently America's #1 corporate sales trainer. The book, I'll be honest, is American. It's quite old. However, I always believe that in these kind of books, there's always some gem that you can uncover and unearth. In the book, Stephen goes on to talk about why cold calling is essential. He looks at numbers, where to look for leads, turning around common responses, talks about something called the ledge, follow-up calls, the 4-step sales process, the principles of sales success, and much, much more. He goes on to talk about how you can turn leads into prospects, learn more about the client's needs, convey the ability to meet the client's demands, and overcome common objections. It's a great read. It's sat proudly on the bookshelf. Someone said the other day that this is green screen. I want to really confirm, and maybe we need to clip this up. This is not a green screen. This is a real life bookshelf. Someone said, oh, you've just green screened a bookshelf so you look more intelligent. No, it's a real bookshelf where I got our week's book recommendation of the week. Make sure you get a copy. I'll drop a link in the comments below for you to grab yours. Apologies, in typical Rob Spence fashion, we are rushing this end part because I never want these to overrun more than half an hour because you're busy. You are busy, and what you should be doing is cold calling. What you should be doing is prospecting and closing more deals. But I want to say a massive thank you for staying tuned. I hope some of those openers could be put to good use. I've got an array of cold call openers that sometimes I don't want to reveal too much for free. If you want to learn some more, take on my sales training. But thank you so much for staying tuned. I'd love to know if any of those cold call openers have worked for you or if they've not worked for you. So go give them a try. Go and give those cold call openers a try and write into me. I'd love to know what's going on. As a gentle reminder, these episodes come out every single Thursday, and they are designed to help you improve your sales and get more money. I'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button and give us a follow as well if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we've got a bumper edition of books. We're going to talk about the top 10 sales books that every salesperson needs to read. I can't wait for that one. I love books with my green screened bookcase behind me. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Sales Circle podcast. And until next week, all the best. Cool. And that's it for another episode of the Sales Circle. Make sure you hit that follow button, join us over on social media, and we'll see you next week.